Good afternoon and welcome to Asbas Digital Solutions and this presentation about 10 of the ways you can avoid burnout in your business. My name is Dante St. James and I am no stranger to burnout. In fact, I've had it before in my life and some people think that maybe I'm headed there again, but I've got a few great ideas that are going to help you to not get to that point of burnout and to not just avoid it, but to be able to thrive your way through when other people are thinking that you may be headed for that burnout. None of us are the same as other people. So please sit down, take a chill out, grab some water, make a cup of tea, even have a cookie if you want to. I think it's that time of the afternoon where we can have a bit of a cookie break. And let's learn about the ways that I've learned to avoid burnout and the ways that you and lots of other people may have had those as well. And if you've got some ideas, make sure you share them during the chat. If you're on Zoom, if you're on YouTube watching this a little bit later, just whack your ideas down in the comments below. And if you would like to give me a subscribe as well, whether you're on the business station subscribe or just my channel as well, that would be awesome. I'd love it. So let's get it underway, share that screen and see how we can collectively avoid burnout, just like bosses. A little quote here from Juliet Sijobo, who's she's also known as the $1 Million Hypnotherapist, and I think she's awesome. And she's certainly got the personality to match the name. She said the burnout exists because we've made rest a reward rather than a right. That's really interesting because I often do it myself. Oh, I'll go and have dinner, or I'll go out and spend time with my friends this weekend if I get all my work done. Those sort of things should be happening anyway. So we'll look a bit more about that and how it plays into ideas like the blended work life and work life balance as well. What we're looking at today is what burnout is, what it feels like, and what it can do to a business as well. Then we're going to look at a list of all the obvious and not so obvious things that are really vital to help you to work at really strong pace, but also not burn out, not just empty yourself completely so you've got nothing to work with in the future. This presentation is brought to you by Business Station and the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program. It's delivered in Western Australia by Business Station itself, in Queensland by Regional Development Australia Brisbane, and in the Northern Territory by Treaty Business Consulting. You can watch this again or book your one-to-one sessions through businessstation.com.au. And if you're a frequent user of YouTube, these webinars are all produced and then put on on YouTube for you to be able to watch on later. So you can go to either the Business Station channel or to mine. And my name's Dante St. James, as you'll see in the next screen. Bit about me. So I do a lot of stuff. I keep myself very busy. I am a very, very busy person. I've got a number of business interests and I work in a number of places. Now, in amongst all the stuff I do for, say, we're talking about some of the places I go, such as I work with Facebook, I work with Treaty Business Consulting, I work with the ASBAS Digital Solutions Program, I work with the NICE program, mentoring small businesses. There's tons of things I do, but then I've got my own businesses. I have a business called Clickstarter, which is a digital marketing agency that has nearly 200 clients in it and 12 contractors that I work with on a variously frequent basis. I also run a new news website and for digital marketing tips and tricks called The Small Marketer. I work as a startup mentor for 3 different startups creating apps. And I volunteer with Skull International, which is a tourism operators club, and Territory Proud, which is a group of Northern Territory businesses that want to promote local buying and local supporting of local businesses. On top of all that, I've got business interests in TEDx. So that's coming up very shortly, actually. So there's a TEDx event that I'll be actually heading up. Then I've got a skincare product that I actually sell wholesale. That's another little line of business. And I've got another wholesale product that I sell to cafes and restaurants that's got to do with coffee and coffee related stuff. That's a lot. There's so much there going on. So you have to wonder, how have I not burned out with nearly a decade of working at this kind of pace? And this is kind of how everyone's ever known me. They've always known me to never be someone who does a little bit of work You're always someone who goes over the top, Dante. You're always doing way too much. You're flying here, you're flying there. How do you have friendships? How do you have relationships? Well, I'm single, that probably explains that. But you have friendships. How do you manage time with family, with friends, with your environment, with your community? How do you manage to do it all and not burn out? And I tell you what, in my past lives, I've definitely burned out. Prior to building some much better strategies to be a high volume person and a high volume personality, I did have to go through a lot of burnout. In fact, in my previous career with a radio network, I burnt out twice over 13 and a half years. The first time wasn't so bad. The second time, though, required some intervention medically. So there was times when I have not followed these rules, and they have taught me to be able to build some of these rules and rituals and ways of going to help to have a better life moving forward. So first up, I'm going to probably go back a couple of screens here and get the idea of what burnout actually looks like. Now, burnout is that place where it's hard to get out of bed in the morning to do work again. It's hard to be a performer in what your work is. It's hard to come up with new ideas. You find you'll get to, you might wake up and start off really well in the morning, and then you kind of fade off by about 11 a.m. Sorry. Well, I should hope you would fade off by 11 p.m., but 11 a.m. you've got that sort of 2 o'clock post-lunch blues where you just find that your productivity starts off really well and then kind of dies towards the second half of the day. Burnout is that person who does the bare minimum. It's that person who just does enough to get things across the line. But it may not look like that when a person's in the earlier stages of burnout. It may look more like that person is kind of an overachiever, someone who is doing pretty well, but they're on the path to having a rather major breakdown or burnout. They're the kind of person who is stacked up with so much stuff that you wonder how they ever get any of it done, and they seem to always be at work. Now, that doesn't sound like burnout, does it? But what it is the start of burnout. It's where it all begins. It's where you have that moment where somebody is going, I'm doing this, I'm working hard, I'm doing all this stuff to make sure I can get so much done. I need to be the best. I need to be, and a lot of that comes from a little thing called imposter syndrome. And I had a really great webinar about that about 2 months ago. Imposter syndrome feeds into burnout. It makes you go, I'm not good enough. I need to work harder. I need to work longer. I need to be better. In fact, I need to be the best and continue being the best over and over and over. It manifests itself by people going and getting too many qualifications. It invests itself with people going and working for too many hours or too many jobs, too many different things, too many volunteer things that they're doing. I've certainly done that plenty of times myself and wouldn't have been able to do them without some strategies in place that prevented that burnout from happening. Burnout for a business, though, is so much more significant than just the individual. Whilst the individual's mental health and the individual's well-being is so important, at the same time, you've got to look at the well-being of your business and your organization. A burnt-out person is not a good sole trader. A burnt-out team is not a good business. Burnt-out customer service is terrible for customers. If one person in a team of 3, 4, 5 people is burnt out, 3, 4, or 5 other people then have to pick up the slack for that person. When 2 or 3 of a team of 5 are burnt out, 2 people are often carrying that whole burden for the rest of the team. People who are burnt out or very, very close to being burnt out, they're not productive. They're not helpful. If they're doing the bare minimum, or they're always sick. People who are on the burnout path tend to always have something going on with their health. There's colds and flus all the time. There's what they call mental health days that they need to take over and above the regular leave and over above sick leave and over and above things like weekends. What we find is in teams where burnout is rampant, is those teams are regarded as being the poor performers of an organization. And if you are the burnout, if you're the person who's just not doing that well, then you've got to go, well, I am the problem. I am the cause. I am actually holding this business back. And that may be time for you to make some major changes, or preferably, you'll end up making some minor changes that will make all the difference. So let's share that screen again and get back underway with our presentation. So rest and relax is a very key way of identifying that the ways that work for you are the best ways for you to work and relax. Work-life balance is something that's been brought up for probably the last 30 years as this idea of, something you do when you're, you work for 7.6 hours a day, you get 6 weeks of annual leave, and you have special time to work in. But other than that, your work doesn't come home with you. You don't think about work. You don't deal with work. All work is something you do in a part of your life. When you're a small business owner, work-life balance isn't really realistic, especially in the early years. Later down the track, you can step back from the business a bit more when other people are doing that sort of on-the-ground grunt work. But when it comes to you starting up something new, work-life balance is not something that's generally going to happen really easily. Let's just say you're working a full-time job to pay the bills, and you're working on a side hustle or a side gig to be able to create yourself a new lot of income. The classic example of work-life balance of working 8 hours, coming home, resting, playing for 8 hours, and sleeping for 8 hours, that 8, 8, 8, 3 by 8, it's not going to work for you, because what's going to happen is that relaxed time is going to be taken up by working on your side business, your side hustle. So work-life balance is a bit of a myth when it comes to small business, particularly in the early years, because it's by reality and by necessity, you have to work a little bit harder to get things going. Now, some people try to offset this by starting off a balanced business, starting from the very ground up and saying, I am going to only work the hours that I want to work, and I'm only going to do the things I want to do. In almost every case, these businesses will fail, because the reality of business is it is a lot of hard work, and in some cases it's a bit of luck. Some people just get lucky, or they just do a certain thing which allows them to spend a lot of time doing the things they want to do rather than being in the work. Now, the other way you can look at this is a bit more of a blended life, a blended schedule, not one where everything's sort of separated like the old TV dinners were back in the 60s and 70s, where there's this compartment for work, this compartment for play, this compartment for family, this compartment for sleep. Life's messy. Things overlie with each other. Things overlap. Life's more of a Venn diagram more than a TV dinner. So how do we then work with this? How do we then create that blended life? And it all comes down to you going, I'm not working on something that I hate. I'm not working on something that I feel like is exhausting my energy. I'm not working on something which is making me feel like it's just another job. You're not buying yourself a job when you create this kind of business. A blended business life plan is going to be all about where you're creating the opportunity to do work you love. Now, I've been very, very fortunate in life. I get to do so much of this stuff, presenting, writing these webinars, getting them prepared for people. This kind of stuff helps to create energy in my life. It doesn't sap it all out of me. It doesn't create a situation where I'm exhausted at the end of every day and just can't bear the thought of working again tomorrow. I still wake up 5 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, and off I go. By this time of the afternoon, I might start to get a little bit tired, and I apologize if you can hear any sirens outside. Hopefully my filters are actually filtering that out. But there's a whole lot of fire trucks just went by. Hopefully everyone's okay. So when I love what I do, I don't have a problem with waking up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. in the morning. I don't have a problem with scheduling things back to back for a day. But what I do have a problem with is filling my day with things I hate, things I really, really do not like. I like contact with people on Zoom calls, meetings, coffee. The opportunity to have a coffee out is fantastic. So I try to fill my days full of those. In your early days of your business, some of the things you might do to make enough money might, require you to do some of the things you don't like so much. You know what? They're the first things you start outsourcing as the business starts to grow. So you can sort of swing things back into that place where you're doing more of the work you love. Sleep is very key, and a lack of it will burn you out really fast. And I'll have like a little bit more about that soon, because sleep is one of those big factors when it comes to burnout. You tend to find that people who burn out the quickest are those who don't sleep very well or don't sleep much. But having flexible hours sort of plays into the sleep thing. So, like for instance, I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning and started working at 4:30 after I went for a little walk. So what I need to do now in order to go out to dinner tonight at 7:30 is that when I get off this webinar, I'm going to have a nap just for 1 hour, 1 hour nap. What that nap will allow me to do is to be able to then go out. Now, if I was working a job somewhere, when this finishes at what will essentially be what 4:30 my time, so it could be 5 o'clock your time in Queensland, or what would be about 3 o'clock in Western Australia. Once I finish all that, I'd still have another hour or half an hour of work to go. I can't just go into the corner of an office in a workplace and just go to sleep. But by having something a bit more flexible in your own business, especially if you're working from home like I mostly do, then you then are in a position where you go, well, who's going to die if I take a 1 hour nap between finishing this webinar and going out to dinner? It sounds like a really good idea to do. So what I find is quite often when I've got those very, very early starts and I've got something on the evening, instead of having lunch, I'll have an early lunch at brunch. And then at lunchtime, I'll actually have a nap, even up to 2 hours. That helps me to be able to then carry on into the night and do a bit better. Now, when you've got your own business, whether it's a shop front or whether you've got a work from home situation, that kind of flexibility is getting really, really attractive. Now, some of that rest and relax in my case comes from travel. I travel a lot to see my parents on the Gold Coast. I travel a lot to see my clients in Cairns, Townsville, Mackay, Bundaberg, Broome, Northern New South Wales, all those places. And I quite often like to work from interstate in places like Tasmania and Melbourne when I've got the chance to, because it's just something that plays into one of the other points that comes up soon. So giving you a few examples there, and some of the people I know who do that whole blended thing do it because they've got kids. Now, one of the treaty business consulting consultants and the general manager, Megan Holtzfein, she's got kids. Now, those kids are not going to feed themselves. Dad's often away doing remote work as a police officer in the Northern Territory. So she has to find ways to make her work fit her life, not just her life fitting her work. She is one of the hardest workers and most dedicated workers I've ever seen in my life. This woman is a machine. She has a capacity to get work done that I just admire. I feel like she just gets tons more done. She's so productive. Every minute of her day is productive. Yet she gets to leave a lot earlier every day and arrives when she needs to. Now, what she'll offset that by saying, okay, if I leave at 2:30 to go and pick up the kids, then what she'll often be doing is working at night, say at 10 o'clock at night before she goes to bed. She's working on some things like reports and that. For her, that is a very sensible and balanced life. That's something that allows her to be very, very present for her kids and for her husband, for her family, but also allows her to get tons and tons of work done. Everything that requires FaceTime in front of people, meetings, and anything like that, she's able to do in the office when she's there. She may only have 5 hours in the office in a day, but then she gets all the stuff done after hours that she doesn't need FaceTime with. That's things like writing reports, reading emails and responding to emails. That kind of stuff she's able to do without having to then be in an office environment. She can do that in her own time when the kids are in bed and she might be watching TV at the same time and she's getting some stuff done on the iPad. Another very important one, this is the one I was kind of alluding to just now, is the idea that you change your view. I'm very fortunate that I've got a view. I don't know if I can even turn around my computer that much to be able to show you that my view is out over the Darwin City area. So if I see if it works, kind of, yeah, you can kind of sort of see it in there. But it's I got a balcony right next to my office space, which is in an apartment in a high rise in the city. And with that, I've got a little bit of water, a little bit of stuff. I've got plants on my balcony as well that I can look out to. That's there for me to get up from the desk. So every hour I have to get up from my desk, walk around. I had a 2-hour meeting today. So what I did, I turned off the camera and then actually walked around my little office space here whilst I was talking to that client on the phone. She didn't mind. She knows it's a 2-hour meeting. I need to get up and have a walk. The other thing is too, that when I've got this next to me, I've got the ability to be able to get up and walk to something, which does something really, really valuable for your eyesight. And that's allowing you to look away from a screen, which is up quite close, take off my glasses and actually look out to the distance where I can see a water tower, I can see a national park. I can see a bit of smoke rising because it's the dry season now, so the fires are starting. I can see a flight coming into land at Darwin Airport. I can look out and see people on their balconies in other apartments around here. It's then giving me something different. Instead of looking at a screen over here, I'm looking at a vista before me. It does two things. There's lots of studies which tend to indicate that looking at green things and greenery and plants, I've got a few plants around me is here as well, that allow you that actually help to calm you and help to soothe you. But then looking into a distance also has a thing where it actually helps your eyes. One of the reasons why I've got two different kinds of pairs of glasses, my vision in the distance is really terrible. So I've got to wear these now. That's all nice and clear and I can see exactly what's going on out there. But my vision is also terrible up close, so I have to wear glasses. Now, a lot of this is because of damage of working too much in front of a screen, not actually spending time, being able to shift my gaze over to things that are a bit further away. Now, if you're working in an office space, this can be just simply that you're seeing you tapping on your computer, and you're always looking at that. But if you've got the ability to look out to the distance, just look up. So sometimes it's just looking down and looking so close gets you very focused. Your eyes don't move very much. But the moment that you look up, you're now looking at a different area. The focal length is far greater. That exercises the muscles in the eye and helps your lens to be properly set to be able to see both up close and in distance. This is how we operate in life. Not everything's in a macro scale that it's up this close to us like a phone is right on our faces. Most of life happens out there. So if you're able to look out towards all those things, you're then able to then let your eyes rest a little. It's much harder for the eyes to focus up close than what it is to have them focus up far. And you even think about that, even try it. Bring a phone up close and realize there's strain. Take it away, it's like, eyes are relaxing again. That's just natural physiology. Now, another way of doing this whole change in your view is that when you've got a day off, try and get out of the house at least once. It's very tempting to go, I've got a day off, all I need to do is all the laundry, the floors, I need to wash the bathroom, scrub the tiles. Getting out of the house gets you a different view. And again, some of those views can be things like just going to the markets, going for a walk down the beach, taking the kids out somewhere. Some of you are fortunate you have kids because kids have a way of forcing you out. You have to at least get to the schools. You have to go to sports and to extracurricular activities and ballet and dance recitals and things that are outside of your house. I don't have kids, so I don't have those excuses. I have to get myself out of the house. So one of those things I do is that when I've got a day off, I make sure that that's the day I might do my shopping. It might be Saturday, it might be something, usually Sunday. Sunday, I'll go out and do my grocery shopping if I haven't ordered, Coles delivery that week. So what I want to do is make sure that I tie in things that are colorful, things that are different to what I see around my house. So I'll often on a Saturday morning go to my local Prat markets, and the Prat markets are full of food. Now you can't eat everything there because not everything's good for you, but the smells and the sights and the sound, you run into people and you're seeing things you don't usually see. This kind of stuff gets you away from that boredom that does set in when you're looking at the same, or in my case, 3 screens and couple of mobiles as well, those same screens every single day, that same view every day inside your shop, that same wall that you stare at that's in your office. It gives you something more. Changing your view also might be something so simple as when I'm on a webinar like this, in the background, you can see I've got my flag, my territory flag. I've got another desk over there where I have people some of my contractors come and work with me for the day, and plants. And they are there for me to be a bit more interested in looking at a plain white wall. Likewise, you can't see it from here, but in front of me, I've actually got some Aboriginal paintings on the wall, and they are quite complex and beautiful. And I've got those there as a thing that encourages me to look up from my screens and see that I've got these 2 beautiful paintings there. And I see that they're colorful. They're not the bland white of my desk and the bland, the silver and the metallic gray of my computers. I look up there and I see a world of color and different brightness. That sort of stuff helps me to stay engaged, keeps my brain active as I'm in part of my day. So they're all little things, all little tips I've learned along the way from psychologists, from people who are specialists in hypnotherapy and NLP or neuro-linguistic programming, people who know all about color, people who have had great success in their lives. They've got lots of these little tips on what you do. And I would say too, by changing your view, ending the day with a walk is a really good way of bookending the day. So for instance, before I start working, I go for a 20 to 30-minute walk. Usually it's about 15 to 20 minutes because I don't really have a lot of time in the morning. And then the afternoon, once I've finished this, I actually go have my nap. I'll wake up and then I'm going to walk out to dinner, which is about a 15-minute walk from here. That means 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back. That's a half an hour walk. That provides a nice end to my day. So when I get back in after dinner, I don't plan on doing any work. It's going to be way too late to do all that. What I do need to do is use that walk as a way of changing my view. I'm going to see the world from a different perspective, not from the perspective of my desk in my office. Some people I know do quite ritualistic things. They'll go to the gym after work. That seems to be a very popular thing to do. They'll do yoga after work. They'll do something like read at the end of the day. They'll do something, or they'll go and do their hanging out of washing on the line, or pulling the washing in from the line, or doing something about like changing over the dishes in the dishwasher as something they do at the end of the day, because it gets them out of where they are and into another space, even if it's just another room in the house. It's a great way to prevent you from resenting the space you're in. If you know that you can easily and quite fluidly get in and out of that space, then you're not going to feel like you're stuck. You're not going to feel trapped. You're not going to feel like a prisoner in your office. Wow. If I had the answer to how to get better sleep, I'd probably make $1 million right here, right now. Unfortunately, I don't. My sleep problems came from sleep apnea. And through sleep apnea, I've had to go and have a sleep study done. And I have to wear a consistent air pressure mask, so a CPAP mask that actually pushes air in my throat so that I'll keep breathing. Because apparently I stopped breathing so many times overnight, nearly 50 times overnight. Every night I would stop breathing for at least 2 minutes. That's scary. That is really, really frightening. It means I wasn't getting good sleep and I was feeling like crap as well. The first time I got that CPAP mask, the very first night, it was like my world had opened up. I did never known that sleep could be so good. That said, though, back in the days before I got a CPAP mask and got my sleep more consistent, I used to think that 8 hours sleep was the absolute golden rule. 8 hours or more sleep a night was what you needed. Now that I was getting far more um, clean sleep and far more restful sleep, I find that I need about 6 now. 6 hours sleep is actually about right for me. 6.5, probably perfect, about 6.5. Once I start hitting 7, 7.5, I get things like back problems. I get sore. I wake up. I need to go to the toilet in the middle of the night. All those little things are niggling things that happen when you're waking up in the middle of the night because you're not comfortable. So consistency is really what I need to get done. I need to make sure that in every case I'm in bed as early as I possibly can be at night. So that means getting home tonight from dinner would probably be around about 9:30. So I'm going to make sure I'm in bed by 10. So once I walk back from home tonight, be in bed by 10. I aim for that 10 o'clock, not because it's some golden rule, but I like to wake up early in the morning. So I get to bed at 10. I can get up at 4 or 4:30 because I'm still getting around about that 6 hour sleep that I really need to get. That said, though, it's a guide, not a rule. So if I get to bed at 10:15, 10:30, or even 9:30, I'm not going to beat myself about it. What I need to do is ensure I get that consistent 6 hours to feel good. Last night I didn't get it. Last night I got around about 5 hours. So I'm not feeling particularly great today. I'm feeling a little flatter than normal, not as animated as I normally would be, and certainly not as clear. When I look around, things are taking a little slow. They're a little slower to adjust. I'm feeling a little bit more heavy in the head. That's because I haven't had enough sleep. I got out of my consistent cycle. This is why your bedtime is so important, because our weekdays are driven so much by clocks and calendars. The ability to be able to get that night's sleep and the ability to be able to wake up at a consistent time means you need to really get that consistency of bedtime. Apple phones and the health apps on Android phones are excellent for helping you not only to track your sleep. I'm talking about sleep, and now I'm going to start yawning. That's ridiculous. It's not just talking about you getting better sleep. It's also about getting that consistency in. There's a setting called bedtime on Apple phones, and that allows you to monitor when you should be going to bed, so that when you get to bed on that regular time, it sort of says, yep, you've got a good consistency over time, and you can measure in yourself whether that's actually working really well for you. How does this contribute to burnout? Burnout comes from a place where you don't have a lot of control, where you feel like if you can't control your sleep, you can't control the workload, you can't control any of your environment, and you start to resent things. If you start to resent your own sleep patterns, that's a real warning sign. You will feel when your sleep's not right. Today, there's no doubt that I can feel it. My jaw is sore from hurting, which I talk no more today than when I usually talk. It just feels like everything is a labor. Everything's hard. Everything just takes a lot more effort to be able to move, a lot more effort to be able to keep awake, a lot more effort to be able to present because I didn't get that consistency of sleep. I now know 5 hours is not enough. 6 is good. 6.5, that's my sweet spot. For you, that could be 7 or 7.5. You may even need the full 8. Most people do. It's an ideal for them to get 8 hours sleep a night. My life can't operate like that. Sorry. I've got way too much going on. One thing, though, that did change my sleep patterns quite significantly is stopping the caffeine. Now, caffeine sticks around in your body for around about an hour and a half. Usually by then, it's completely passed through your system. But if you are someone who drinks, say, Coke at dinner, or Pepsi Max in my case was my poison of choice, that is then hanging around from, say, it's dinner's about 7 o'clock. So at 8:30, you've still got caffeine in your system. And then you might go, oh yeah, I'll have a little coffee after dinner, because that's, you want to finish after dinner with a coffee. So if my dinner is finishing around about 9 o'clock tonight, then it's going to be about 10:30 before that's out of my system. I'm hoping to be asleep by 10:30. By 10, I want to be home and in bed and falling asleep. So the idea of having that caffeine in my system is pretty scary. Now, a lot of people have a lot more resistance to caffeine. I certainly do. I've had a lot of coffee in my life, trust me. So caffeine doesn't affect me quite as badly as it does other people. I'm not particularly sensitive to it. But newer studies have shown that having caffeine in your bloodstream when you go to bed means that there's a certain repair and plaque clearing process that doesn't happen, and it's prevented. What I mean by is a lot of the there's a lot of stuff that happens when, for instance, people with Alzheimer's and dementia, is that there's plaques in on the brain tissue, and that plaque, they don't know whether that's causing dementia or whether that's a symptom of dementia. But what they have learned is that that plaque clearance is a natural thing that occurs and naturally gets cleared out, kind of like washing your teeth. When that stuff gets cleared out, it is a sign of having had a good sleep. Now, caffeine in your bloodstream actually stops that cleaning out from happening. So if you are having coffee every night before you go to bed, or a Diet Coke or a Pepsi Max or anything like that before you go to bed, you're actually causing your body to not be able to clear that plaque. So I've actually had to stop having any sort of caffeinated drinks from about 3 p.m. So I've got a zero sugar Sunkist that I'm drinking at the moment, no caffeine in that. But I've got my Pepsi Max in the fridge. I can have that at lunch, but not at dinner. So what's done, number one, is reduce the amount of caffeine in my diet, but also reduce the amount of bubbly drinks that I get to buy. So yeah, it's helping my hip pocket as well. So examples of that case would be, I've dropped my Pepsi Max consumption at night, and I only ever have it around about lunch. I need to be done by 3 p.m. on drinking that kind of drink, which means same with coffee. Coffee's great in the morning, coffee's great for lunch, but after that, that mid-afternoon coffee has now become a mid-afternoon cold water or a soda water. Soda water is really good for that as a replacement. Now, what has this got to do with burnout? Well, obviously, if you're not sleeping well, you're going to be that much closer to burning out. Those pressures in your day of working so hard and getting so much done, those things are going to mount up so much worse when you're a little bit angry and a little bit not quite right and a little bit irritable. And that's what happens when we don't get any sleep. You'll know it when you don't get a good sleep. Everything goes wrong. Now, getting moving is a part that I'm still trying to sort of help out myself at the moment. Exercise is something which takes time. It takes definition. It takes discipline. It takes the ability to get up off your butt and actually get moving. When you sit all day, you do have to offset that. So one of the things I will do quite often is get up and move every hour. I have to get up from my desk, take a walk around and go, okay, even if it's just me walking to the end of my hallway and coming back, that's what I have to do in order to offset the fact that I'm sitting in my very, very comfortable chair, but it is all day. Low impact exercise is just as good as high impact exercise. As for like, you don't have to run, you can walk. You don't have to lift weights. You can do lunges. Anything that, like, if you've got things like me, I've got bad knees, I've got terrible ankles, I've got an awful Achilles tendon on my left hand, on my left foot, then those kind of things, then you can offset by just making sure they're low impact movements that you make. A walk really makes a difference. If you can do it at lunch, do it in the morning tea, afternoon tea, it's great. When I'm in at the office where I'm working with Treaty Business Consulting on the days I work for them, what I do is at morning tea, I'll go and make my coffee. And before I come and drink my coffee, because it's always too hot after you first make them, I need to cool down a bit. I go and walk down two floors of stairs and walk back up them again. And then I drink my coffee. And that's a way to keep moving to at least offset how sedentary my lifestyle actually is. Now, this is a really important one if you're someone who's a mouse user. So you're always going, using mice gave me RSI, repetitive strain injury, in my shoulder. And it caused me so much pain in this right shoulder that it's something which was almost debilitating. And for someone who's on a computer all day like I am, I need to be able to do those things. So two things I had to do to offset that. That was using a trackpad. So I use I use a Macintosh computer. So I use this external trackpad. And this external trackpad is much bigger than the trackpads that usually exist on computers, although this one's about the same size as the one on my computer. But if you've got a little tiny trackpad, these allow you to use more of your hand and move more. So you're not, rather than just doing like one position where you then go just to move tiny around a screen, you're actually using gestures in your hand that opens it up. And you're using fingers that go up and down and using side and side. You're actually using what I call macro movements. They're far bigger. Micro movements are like where you've got a fixed position and you're just going like that, where the tiny little movements cause very large movements on a screen. So in that case, what you do is those macro movements. For me, it meant learning how to not use a mouse and how to use a trackpad. I now am so good at a trackpad, I don't even own a mouse. I don't have one in this house. They're just completely foreign to me now. They feel weird to use. And that has helped immensely. But the other thing that helped immensely was simply moving more of my arm. So if I just stop the screen share just for a moment, so you can see what I'm about to do, and you're spending all day doing this with a mouse, then you do this occasionally, just in the office. Just sit there and just roll your shoulders a few times, up and around like this. And then also stretch up and then down. Move aside, move to side, turn your neck around. These are all macro movements because they're large parts of your body that are moving for you, not just these still tiny, tiny movements. Now, this isn't about me losing weight. It's not about me being fit. This is about me being productive. So being able to do those big macro movements that are going to allow me to be able to get a lot more out of my day, they're going to make me a lot more productive, a lot more useful in the business I'm working in. So I hope that makes a lot of sense. Now, when it comes to replacing their bad habits, those bad habits I'm going to talk about when they're here are things like, I live on the 7th floor of a building. It doesn't take me long to walk down the stairs, but it does take me a while to walk up them. So what I try to do at least once a day when I go outside of the building is I walk down the stairs to get out of the building. Not so hard. Walking back up the stairs, that's a whole other deal. I'm not going to be probably doing that. But when I go to the Treaty Business Consulting office, their particular office, right, is on the 1st floor. So there's only a couple of flights of stairs. I'm up there. So instead of going straight into the vestibule where the lifts are and just going, oh yeah, I'm just going to hop in the lift and go up to the next level, I walk around to the back of the building and then walk up that set of stairs. Now, what this does is gets you used to using the stairs so that the lift actually feels a bit weird and it feels like it's too slow because you're not going anywhere. So doing those little things, replace the escalator with the stairs, replacing the lift with the stairs. Of course, if you're not in a 38-story building, that's probably more helpful. But things like also, instead of rolling your chair over to the other side of the office to talk to someone, get up and walk over to them and have a chat to them as well. That's going to give you much more of an option to get those macro movements going again, which is offsetting all those little tiny movements that you're doing. Also helps you with your eyes, because as you're walking somewhere, you have to look ahead, not just up close. How does this help with all your burnout? Again, when you're not sore, when you're not aching, when your body's not feeling like it's falling apart, you're more capable and in a better mood to be able to get through a big day of work. So that's why I just simply have to do these things, because I want to be able to work a lot. I need to be able to support that in some way. Now I need to up the ante a lot and do a lot more exercise. I've put on way too much weight in the last 4 years. That again is so that I can not just be more productive, but also live a lot longer. Because if I'm going to be working this hard for the next 20 years, because the chances are I will, because that's the kind of person I am, I need the body that's going to support that as well. I don't want to burn out either body or mind. Now, reflecting and preparing is all about preparing for that next day. So, tomorrow morning's work actually starts this afternoon. The last 15 minutes of my workday. So, after this, I said I was going to go have a nap. Look, 15 minutes after I finish this, what I do that last 15 minutes is clear my desk. Everything gets removed. Any sort of drinks, any sort of used cans, bottles, plates, any sort of cutlery gets cleared and taken back to the kitchen. Any phones that I've got laying here all get removed because I'm no longer in that space. So I need to take those out with me because I'm not going to be walking back into this office area. I've got a little mini vacuum cleaner. I get that mini vac and I then go just over my keyboard and then underneath where I'm actually sitting. So because it's always like the grime of the day seems to build up a bit, and I need to be able to clean the floor. So I do that with the mini vac. Then what I'll also do is any paperwork that's sitting on my desk gets cleared. It gets either filed away into a folder for tomorrow, or it gets thrown out if it's no use to anyone. And then I wipe the bench down so that I've got some clear space that then gets wiped down. Why do I do this? Because it creates a clean, clear desk for when I get back in the morning. That helps prevent burnout by giving me something clean and fresh every morning. Cluttered desks are stressful. They make you just go, oh my God, there's so much stuff here. There's all these lists over here and lists over there and business cards here and got stickers over there and other business cards over there. There's so much going on. By clearing that out in the last couple of minutes of my workday, I'm getting rid of all that. The other thing too is spending about 5 or 10 minutes listing things up for tomorrow. Now, I use a Google Calendar, which is pretty much my Bible. That gets me through my entire day. That's everything. If it's not in that calendar, it ain't happening. Or if I use Trello for getting work done. Now, part of what I do is I go into my Trello account. So Trello is like a task management system. It's free, trello.com. And I go in there and I see, okay, that's the list of what I was supposed to get done today. Oh, one thing I didn't get done. So rather than me stressing out saying must be done today, I put it into tomorrow. That's the first task to get done tomorrow. And then I set up my tasks for tomorrow. I transfer them across when I've got my calendar. So I can see in my calendar right now that I've got at 5 a.m. I'm going to be working on a particular client's website through to 8 a.m. So that's task number 1, is to do that thing. Task number 2, I've got a meeting at 8 a.m. That's going to be a phone call with somebody in, where is he? I think he's in Canberra. Yes, I know Alice Springs. Sorry, he's in Alice Springs. So I'm going to be having a call with someone in Alice Springs at 8 a.m. So that is in my task list. So it gives me an opportunity to tick those off. You might want to use pad and pen to tick those things off. This helps with burnout because you actually see that you're doing something and getting stuff done. When you don't have a record of these things, if you don't have it written down somewhere or in a system where you can tick it off, your day kind of meanders. It feels like you've achieved nothing. You know those days where you thought, I've been working for 10 hours and I've got absolutely nothing done. What the heck happened with that day? Those are the days you probably didn't have a task list. You probably didn't have a list of things telling you what to do. The other thing I'll do quite often is that I'll mark things off my calendar. So I've got a color-coded system. It's quite, I'd show you, but there's a lot of private information in there, so I can't really, but I've got things color-coded. So for instance, the work tomorrow morning is for a client, that's dark blue. The phone call, excuse me, is what I call a meeting, so it's purple. Then I've got another call for a particular government program, they're all orange. What I do is I change those all off to be gray when they're done. And that shows me at the end of the day, I go, look at all that stuff I got done. It also helps me to identify the things that I didn't get done that are still in color, so I can transfer them over into the new workday. Whatever system works for you, that will help you to avoid burnout, because quite simply, you're seeing how much you're getting done. And we are naturally, we're just really, really smart monkeys. We are. We just basically, we need to be told we're doing a good job and scolded when we're not doing a good job. We react a lot better to honey than vinegar. So what you do is you create a system where you are essentially rewarding yourself. Give yourself a little dose of that dopamine in your head. When you get a bit of good news, when someone hears your name, even say it out loud. Say, you know what, Dante, well done, mate. You got a hell of a lot done today. And immediately hearing that and repeating it back in your own head releases a shot of dopamine that helps things like taking away headaches, makes you feel good, makes you want to do more good things. Positive reinforcement. That stuff is going to stave off the burnout because you're going to be feeling too good to be burning out. That's what you want to do. Then as I work through my day, I do those things and keep them working. But at the end of the week, you've got to give yourself a little bit of time to think of the bigger picture. You can get caught up in these lists and these to-dos and calendars, but the reality is you're also a person who has hopes and dreams and plans for the future. Burnout is partially due to the fact that you don't see yourself ever getting to those plans. You just work and work and work and work and work and work, and you lose all sorts of scale of what the big picture is, the reason why you got into business. In my case, there's a few things because I wanted to destroy my previous workplace by doing the job better. That's grown out now to be something a little bit healthier than that. It's more like who I help and why I help them, and also the freedom that I want to get to be able to work from wherever I want to work, see my parents whenever I want to see them, and catch up with friends in other parts of Australia and the world when I want to. That sort of stuff is well on the way. When I look at that and I go, okay, what I want to do is look through my calendar, pull up my calendar and say, well, the end of next week, I'm off to Cairns and Townsville for a week. That's going to be amazing. I'm going to see these friends that I know. I'm going to see these people that I've met before. I'm going to meet all these new people. I'm going to be able to drop in through Brisbane, have dinner with my parents on the way through before I fly back to Darwin. That'll be awesome. And then, oh, look at that. I've got this a friend of mine coming to stay on the 26th, and I've got this big marketing workshop on the 28th. These are all filming on the 25th. What you're doing is giving yourself a picture of what's the big stuff going on. It's not just about, you going, here's a bunch of tasks. I start to see in my calendar that there's amazing, wonderful things coming up in my life. By focusing on those things, I think hope was it? It's like a biblical psalm or a proverb or something says something like hope deferred it makes the heart grow sick. What you want to do is you see this hope in there and it actually makes your heart swell really well and say, oh, I'm back in Cairns on the 30th of the month for that training. That's going to be awesome. I'm going to see friends in Cairns again. Off to Broome the very next day after I get back. And I love Broome. It's such a great little spot to be going. And so many new people that I know over there. So that's going to be awesome too. Looking, going, holy crap, I've got a really good month ahead of me. Now that immediately takes me out of burnout phase and into much more hope about the future. It gets me excited. And that's a really good way to end your day or your week, when you can actually look out and look at all the amazing things you've got coming up. Even me just verbalizing it now is making me feel great. I'm feeling more alive. I'm not yawning anymore because I'm not talking about sleep. I'm actually talking about the great things that are going to go on in my life in the next couple of weeks. That helps you prevent burnout. So things like calendars and lists of all this stuff that's going to happen, they're not just about little tasks that get ticked off. They're about the big things too. The trips, the markets. Put your daily personal stuff in there. All that stuff. Mark the birthdays, mark the anniversaries. I put everything in there. I've even got a friend of mine's birthday next Saturday. And on top of that, I've also got in there an anniversary when I broke up with someone. That's actually a good memory, by the way. It's not a bad memory. So I look at that and go, wow. It takes me back to the big picture of my life, not just today, right in front of this computer and this screen and what's going on. Makes a big difference. I promise you that. So that's the example from me, but other friends of mine use systems like Asana, they use Trello, they use Monday.com as ways of being able to track these things getting done. But the best of them all use those systems, not just to track work, but to track the bigger things. That's why I use Google Calendar. I track everything in there. I can see where I'm staying, what I'm doing, who I met. I diarize absolutely everything. So I can go to someone and say, Jeremy, we met 6 years ago today. And it's just that nice little way of getting you out of workspace and into personal space. And you feel good. You make someone else feel good. Then you jump back into your own world and get your work done. That avoids burnout because it makes you a better human being. I reckon that rituals are a great thing. Now, rituals don't mean necessarily lighting a candle and some incense and gang, gang, gang and chanting. It's not all that after all. Spiritual rituals, yes, they can create a great format for the day. One of the great reasons why the 5 prayer times of the day for very Orthodox Muslims is really valuable for helping them to stay not just on track with their spiritual lives, but to give them structure in their day. A lot of people do that. They pray before they get up in the morning. They pray before bed at night. Or they may have, I stretch or I do yoga or I do some meditation at certain times. Now, I don't do any of that stuff. My rituals are more about the things that I didn't even know I was doing, but now I've become more aware of. There are things like, and this one, just go with me here, the order in which you wash the parts of your body. Now, I always start off hair first. I don't wash my hair every day. I just put water on it because shampoo kind of wrecks your hair, and I'm already got as little hair as possible now. So I want to be able to protect the stuff that's still there. You don't do that with shampoo and conditioner. You do that by sometimes just leaving it alone. So one of the things I do, wash my hair first, and then this arm, then down the front, then the back, the legs, and then up through the private bits, underarms, underarm, face at the end. And that's how I have a ritual. I don't even know what it is. I'm very aware of the ritual that I go through. So that sort of ritual is one of the rituals you already perform that you may not be aware of. It's also, I have a certain order of things going in the morning. I wake up, the first thing I do is I go into the lounge room and turn on the air conditioner. So lounge room, living area is where my office is, right? So I make sure that when I do get out later on to work in there, that's nice and cool and comfortable. I'm not stepping into a hot box. So it's a pleasant experience. That's a ritual. Doing that every morning. That's a ritual. Going then back in, having the shower, brushing the teeth, doing the hair, all that sort of stuff. All that stuff is part of a ritual as well. And then there's the things like, how do you make your breakfast? What order you make your breakfast in? Do you make the coffee first or do you make the breakfast first? Those things form your rituals. Those kind of rituals actually contribute to your well-being because they're taking away stress points of your life. Mark Zuckerberg, very famously, tended for quite a few years there until someone told him he looked like too much like a robot, was to have the same clothes. He didn't like the inefficiency of having to choose clothes in the morning. So he had one pair of pants, one shirt, and one lot of shoes and socks, but 20 of them. So if it's like a blue shirt, like this shirt I'm wearing now, what that would have is I have 20 of these. So it's the same shirt I wear every day, but it's a different shirt. It's just the same color. I don't actually have that stress point of going, oh, what do I wear? Think about that would be great, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be so good if you just didn't have to think about what you're wearing in the morning? It just is pull it out, you put it on, you go in and you're happy with that look. That's a really efficient thing. That becomes part of your rituals. So you can create some new rituals in your morning just by adding something in that you do every day. For me, that might be putting on music so that I'm waking up to some nice music. My former housemate used to put on the same song every morning, really super loud as he got in the shower, because it helped wake him up as part of his rituals that got him ready for the day. That helps you avoid burnout because it allows you to then say, well, this is a stress point that I don't have in my life. You don't have to stress over what to do and in what order because it becomes automatic to you. Rituals really help to remove the stress and help to prevent the burnout. Then we've finally got the device detox. This is a really good one. I'm not taking my phone to dinner tonight. Now that might be dangerous. What if they decide they're not turning up? Who cares? I'll turn around and walk back 15 minutes. That's a good thing. I can have dinner back here at home if I need to, if they don't turn up. That's fine. What's going to happen in that time between me going out to dinner and getting home? Am I going to die? Is someone else going to die? We coped without these phones. We can cope without it. So when you go out to lunch next time, go out to a client meeting, put the phone not on the table. If you have to take it with you, put it in your bag, put it away so it's not in front of you. Don't take your phone to the kitchen or to the toilet. That's one of the other things is that I'm trying to train myself. Now, this sounds gross, but everyone so does this. They take their phones to the toilet. That's where we scroll through and waste time. What I want to do is create a little bit of serenity in my downtime in the small room of the house. So with that, I'm not going to take the world into the toilet with me. I'm just going to leave it out the desk, out in the workspace. When I need to deal with the biological realities of life, I don't want the world in there with me. I'm just going to let it happen. efficiently, the way nature intended. That's a gross point of conversation, I know, but you get what I mean, don't you? Now, also give yourself an email-free day every now and again, particularly on the weekends or when you've got the chance to actually take a day off away from the computer. Quite often the problem is that these things have email on them as well. So you either set yourself up that you don't have email on your phone, or you very deliberately avoid email during the day. That will help you with burnout because email is information overload. Give yourself an email free day. When you wake up in the morning, instead of listening to watching a YouTube video or a tutorial or listening to a podcast, replace that with music. Replace it with a fiction audiobook. It highlights very different parts of the brain. Why do you do that to avoid burnout? Because if you overuse one part of your brain, you become very, very stale, very boring. No new ideas are coming in. So by getting new ideas is more than just reading a book in your industry. You also then go, I'm going to listen to something which is completely left of center, nothing like I normally would do. So it gives you new perspectives. Some people I know go to the movies. Some people I know, put on alternative music or spiritual music in the morning or uplifting music in the morning, whatever gets them in the right mind space for that kind of stuff. This one's a really big one for me is stop making excuses. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. When someone asks you if they can fit them in, oh, surely you can squeeze me. It's only a 15-minute appointment. You say no. And they go, very few times will someone say why. What we assume they're going to ask that. So we start making up a story. Oh, I can't do that because, I've got back-to-back appointments all day and I need that 15 minutes to go and make myself a coffee and make some lunch and finally get off my chair and walk around the house. Get like 15 minutes is all I want in my day. Suddenly you're becoming a storyteller. You're over explaining things. When you just let your yes be yes and your no be no, and this is a revolution to some people, if you mess something up, no one really cares about the reason why you messed it up. They just go, did you mess it up? And you go, yeah, I did mess it up. And it's okay. So what are we doing to correct that? Okay, I'm doing this, this, and this. Great, move on. This really helps you to be efficient. And it means that you're not stressing about coming up with another excuse and story to get out of that thing you don't want to do. If I didn't want to go to dinner tonight, I would just say to my friends, I don't feel like going to dinner, I'm not coming. And they know now that to not push that because they know I can't be forced by peer pressure to do anything. So they'll just go, yeah, no worries, see you next time. People get trained into how to treat you by you stopping making excuses for your decisions. If you say yes to something, say yes to it. Don't explain why. If you want to say no to something, you do not owe anyone an explanation as to no. If you need to reschedule something, you just simply say, I've had a clash, or whatever the most base reason is. There's been a clash, or I'm unable to make. Quite often I just say, I'm unable to make that appointment. I need to reschedule. When's a good time for you? So much more efficient. And people, they get worked up because they always assume that when you try to explain something or over explain it, that you're lying to them. And that's because quite often we are. The idea that saying, oh, look, I just don't feel really well today. I woke up feeling, just say, I can't do it today. Let's reschedule. It makes so much sense and saves so much stress. And I'd say probably finally, I would look at the idea of not going it alone. If you need help, take the help. Consider mentorships, consider coaches, ask questions. When you are stressed out, you're much more likely to be burnt out because you're so busy trying to work out the things for yourself. You can go and Google it for yourself and get the answers. You can ask the person next to you, say, hey, that thing they mentioned the other day, what was that? Yes or no? They go, it was no. Okay, great. And you move on with your day. When you go and stress through it, searching through emails, and you're trying to find the answer, just ask for help. Seriously, no one cares. They really want you to ask for help because they don't want to be working next to a stress head. And you matter. This sounds really obvious, doesn't it? But you actually matter. It's not just your customers or clients. It's not just your kids. It's not just your husband or your wife. Toxic people add no value to your life. They are nothing but a stress point. The things that happen out in your friendships and relationships are things that affect you here in your business as well. It's not just about you having a business and everything being very businessy, so that the only things that can affect your life are business things. Things that are happening out there, you may actually have to remove some people from your life. As a new business owner, you'll find that some people just don't understand. They're used to their 6 weeks of government mandated leave that they get because they work for the local government or the state government or the federal government, they're used to a certain routine. They're also pretty unhappy with their jobs. Notice how much they whinge about them. They hate their jobs. Dude, you're getting paid over $100,000 to do practically nothing, and you're getting 6 weeks annual leave and all these flexi days and that. Hell, what else do you want, mate? Where you're working, 7 days a week, 10, 12, 13 hours a day, you matter. If you have toxic people in your life who are just doing nothing but make you feel bad about your business, you will, I guarantee, burn out. It's guaranteed you're going to burn out. So by getting rid of those toxic influences, and trust me, once you kick them out, remember letting your yes be yes and your no be no. You say no to them enough times, they get trained to not bother you and try to drag you into their drama. It sounds much easier than what it may actually be in reality. But the minute you take that first step to saying no to these people, they will rant and rave and carry on. But you know what? They get bored and move on to the next person. People who are toxic look for the easiest possible path. That used to be you. Now it's someone else. That's their problem. You are important. You matter. You can book more webinars just like this one, or a one-to-one consultation on a matter of things. This has been about well-being, but it could just be about social media, websites, online security, cybersecurity, using different systems like Microsoft Word, G Suite, Trello, like we mentioned before, or Asana. You can book myself and other great advisors in at businessstation.com.au. If you want to reach out to me, that's my email address on the screen, or you can come over and stalk me on Stalkbook and Linked Stalk and YouStalk, or I can LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube for the more educated. I'm off to have a nap after I clean my desk, of course. If you want to know more about how I structure my day and how you might structure yours, book me and I'd love to have a chat. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I hope you have an amazing week. I hope your week already has been amazing, to be honest. And thank you for taking some time out of your business today to work on your business and a little bit on yourself too. Have a great one.